So you want to sew a mask and join the fight against COVID-19? I'll show you how to do it. This is an example of one that I made. The elastic is a little big on it because I only had ½ inch at the time. You're going to want 1/4 inch elastic so that doesn't give you Dumbo ears. But the store was out of 1/4 inch. You can tell when it fogs up your glasses. I don't know if you can see. That means that the filter is working. You will need a sewing machine, stuff to cut with, pen, ruler, elastic. Like I said, 1/4 inch. I think this is again ½ inch, but if you can get 1/4 inch, it's better. Some vacuum bags, pins, fabric, maybe a pattern if you're into it, and maybe a spray bottle of water if you have very wrinkly fabric. These fabric pieces, it's 18 by 21 inches, and you can use any fabric as long as it's cotton, 100% cotton. You can just get these things at Walmart. First off, you're probably gonna wanna make sure that you're on the wrong side of the fabric. So this is a little bit wrinkly. Just gonna spray it with a little bit of water. You want it on the spray mode, not laser mode. Just spritz it just a little bit. Sort of flatten it out. You want a nice flat surface. You don't want to do this on your couch or something. A 18 by 21 inch piece of fabric, so it's going to make things pretty easy for me. Because the mask is 9 inches by 6 inches. So that means that's half of what this is. So I don't have to do quite as much measuring. I'm going to make a straight 6-inch line right here. And then now all I have to do is make one big line that goes across, because there are 2 sides to the mask. So we're going to cut 2 pieces of fabric. You can use scissors since you have a nice straight line, or you can use one of these. This is my favorite. It's extra easy. Just be careful on what surface you're cutting on because it'll cut straight through. Okay, we got our 2 pieces of 6 by 9 fabric, and now we have the vacuum bag. It's just a vacuum bag, all cut up. It doesn't have to look pretty, it just has to be a little bit smaller than the actual mask itself. So I'm gonna make it 6.5 by 4.5. Doesn't even have to be straight. Just big enough to cover your mouth. Small enough to fit in the mask. Yep, that's just fine. Make sure that you are sewing it the right side to the right side like this. These 2 sides go together. Not wrong side to wrong side. Not wrong side to right side. Make sure that all the corners line up. Mine do. Yep. If you have any big parts peeking out because it wasn't cut perfectly straight, you can always just shave them off. The last thing you will need to cut is the elastic that goes around your ears. Since mine is a ½ inch, I'm going to cut it a little bit longer so that it's a little bit looser. Try not to get the Dumbo ears. And so I'm going to make it about 7.5 inches instead of 7. Only like a medium mask will be 7 inches with the 1/4 inch. If you don't know how to use a sewing machine, I'm sure there's some other YouTube videos that will teach you the basics of threading the needle and winding your bobbin and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to show you how to sew this thing. So you're going to want to start on the long side. You're going to want to start sewing about 3/4 of the way through, so right around here. And you're going to do a really quick stitch. Not going to go very far at all. And then for extra security, I'm going to do a couple back stitches. Now, this little spot right here, you're going to open it up right at the corner. You're going to take your elastic and you're going to put it in there diagonal to the corner, like that. And then cover it up. And you're going to go almost all the way to the edge with your stitches. Just make sure that you get a few stitches in the elastic. So don't go all the way to the edge, just stop right before. Then you're going to lift up your foot and rotate. Now you're going to go down this edge, but not all the way to the end. Just give yourself some room because you're going to move the elastic. Okay, that's about good enough. So you're going to lift up this corner and you're going to find that elastic that you had sewed to the other side. And now you're going to move it over and do the same thing on this side. Now you're going to go almost all the way to the edge. Just make sure that you get a couple of stitches into the elastic. That's pretty good. Now lift your foot and rotate, making sure that the sides are still together. And now you're going to go all the way down to the other side. And stop before you get to the end because you're going to do the same thing all over again. So you can also pin this together if you want, but I usually don't because you have to keep opening and closing it all the time. So I just kind of do it by hand. But if you want to pin these together to make it more straight, you can. Be careful when you do that part because you want to make sure you don't accidentally sew over the elastic. You know, if your elastic gets turned when you're not looking and then you sew over it, that would be bad. Now, for this part, we have to make sure that we leave an opening right here because you're going to be turning this inside out. So we only need to do a couple stitches, about a quarter of the way through. A little more. And then I like to do a couple back stitches just to make sure it doesn't fall apart while I'm turning it inside out. And this is where you get to see if you did everything right. Find the hole. It's kind of neat that you have the elastic pieces because then you can pull on them. Helps you turn it inside out. And there. It's starting to look like a mask now. So with this hole that you created, one of the reasons why it's so big isn't just so that you can turn it inside out. It's also so that you can put the vacuum filter inside of it. You might have to fold it and mess with it a little bit, but if the hole's big enough, it'll fit. There you go. This part we're going to be making folds or pleats, kind of like a pleated skirt. You're going to pinch it kind of like on both sides. It's a very, very small fold. Here, like that much. just really tiny. And it's all right if the vacuum filter bag like kind of folds a little bit with it. Just don't try too hard to get the vacuum bag in there, because you want to make sure that the vacuum bag still is like as big as the mask. So you don't want to start folding it down here and then have the bag get smaller and smaller. This is the part where you poke yourself. Kind of right here, near the middle. And you're gonna do another one up here, near the top. Okay, so your pleats should look something like this. As you can see, the mask is a lot smaller now that it's all folded in. So I highly recommend that you turn it around and hold it up to your face to make sure that it still covers your nose and your mouth. It should go all the way down to your chin. And also you want to look at the inside and make sure that the filter is still there at the top. So I'll be sewing through it a little bit when I sew this shut. You're going to want to sew all along the edges. I like to start right where the pleats are because that's the most important part. I'm going to sew right over these pins because they're very, very small. But if it makes you nervous, you can just take them out as you're sewing over them. Now when you're sewing over this part, make sure that this is folded over and closed, because you want that shut. So this is where we began, right here. We're going to sew all the way up to this, and then we're going to do a back stitch. There we go. And now, all we have to do is take the pins out, cut the thread off. And here is the finished mask. Mine is a little bit big on me. I could have gone with 7 inches instead of 7.5, but it still covers my whole face and it keeps fogging up my glasses, so that's a good sign. Anyway, I hope you had fun making this mask, and be safe out there.